Hey Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to Austria-Hungary and Russia's round 3 of this game of 1914 played against a human opponent. Let's see, the Austro-Hungarians purchased 7 infantry and 3 artillery. Let's go to the combat move. We'll start over here in the west. Essentially, the Austro-Hungarians force everything that can go into Tyrolia, including the air. So watch this. Boom. That's everything that could go in going in. And I think that's a half piece in my... No, I think that's... let's just pull the calc. That says a negative half an IPC in favor of the Italians. But it ended up going a piece in favor of the Austrians. But we'll get to that in a moment. Over in the east, he basically consolidates in Poland, sends a blocker clearance team into Belarusia. This one, 3 infantry and artillery. Typically, when I say blocker clearance team in 1914, it's 2 infantry and an artillery. That leaves a 1 in 6 chance of survival for your opponent. So the same as getting shot down by an AA gun if you're doing an industrial bombing raid in regular Axis and Allies. But he reinforced it with a 3rd infantry. So that, to me, signals he really wanted to make sure Belarus went down. I think that puts it at less than 10% survival for the Russians, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to pull it up right now. Anyway, he puts 3 infantry in Galicia, and the rest he pushes into Romania with the Ottomans. Okay, so the combat in Tyrolia went +2 in favor of the Austrians, I believe. It was either +2 or nearly, maybe it's +1.5. Yeah, okay, he was supposed to get 7 and maybe 8 hits, and he got 9. So it's like +1 and 2/3. So whatever, not too far off. And then the Italians hit their 8. So it ends up being an exactly even peace exchange. Yes, the Austrians killed 1 more Italian in this particular battle, but in the previous, the Italians killed 1 more German. So it ends up being an 11 piece exchange after the complete round of combat, so to speak. The Italians attacking, the Austrians counterattacking. Totally even, dead even peace exchange. The difference, though, is, in my estimation, is 2 things here, and this is basically something I anticipated, and that was that Tyrolia would still go to the Italian bank, so the Italians get 4 back for that. And the second thing, this sometimes doesn't matter, but for the most part, it's being decent myself at playing the CP. If you have an Entente force in Tyrolia, it requires your attention almost immediately. You cannot have an Entente force camping here because it projects too much power into too many very vital areas for the CP, including Munich, Bohemia, Vienna, and of course Trieste. So yeah, that attack, I think that was the right move. Absolutely, you can't ignore that. So of course that means less attention towards the East Front, but I don't know what effect, if any, if that's good or bad. I just saw something like an opportunity and decided, what the heck, let's go for something like that. Staying jinky. So in Belarus, I think he wipes me out for no cost. Yeah. So that's it. So this is how we look. Okay, now I studied this for a little while, and here's what I decided to do. I'm going to buy 2 fighters and 4 infantry. I know, as a general rule, I wanted to buy, or was thinking of sticking with, mostly troops, but the Russians aren't feeling well respected by how much air they've attracted. And there is one advantage to close-in defense of your capital. Whatever you purchase on your turn will be of immediate use the following turn. So I can see this situation on the East Front, and I can see that there are only 2 CP fighters available. And given that I have a rather large land army with a rather large artillery force, purchasing 2 fighters means I have a 50-50 shot at air supremacy if I decide to engage in a battle in which he puts both his fighters. So Yeah, he'll be able to react, but he'll either have to split his fighters or stack them, or leave his fronts open without any fighter protection. There's more that can come up, and this is something I've always kind of theorized about. If Russia, I always usually buy one fighter as Russia. This is the first game where I delayed doing so, and it was to see what would happen with this sort of defense. So here's what I've decided to do. I'm going to send a second infantry into Sevastopol and try to clear him in perhaps in a cheap way. Let me study this for a second. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do I want to send an artillery? Nah. I'm not going to even leave a blocker. Uh, Although it's usually a good idea to do so, this is just such a I don't think it's a tough choice to decide to plant a large portion of your army there. There's arguments for going into Livonia. There might even be an argument to go in Belarus, but Ukraine is just such a prime piece of real estate that I don't think the blocker would be serving any purpose. So yes, I'll open it up, open the field for him. Let's see. So yeah, I've got this Russian battleship out here, and he's pretty much done. So let's complete this turn. Okay, we cleared it. So we get the cost of the live loss there, the Russian piece back by collecting that 3 IPCs we wouldn't otherwise have had. Done out. Drop them in. And there we go. So, yeah, collect 18. It's a good number to have. What's going to happen is, of course, Germany or Austria, or the Ottomans, will take Karelia, Ukraine, maybe Sevastopol, and next turn the Russians will have to deal with the problem of staying in the game for the first time. Revolution rule is active. This means I have to create at least 2 contested zones pending that result. And there's a couple of things I'll just say about this very quickly right now. Right now, as the Russian player, I am presenting for activation of the revolution rule, and I mean to say, and this will come out in its own video, and I'll have to find a better way of saying it, so I might have to table the long form conversation of this now, but if I don't move out of my capital and I just sort of sit there and try to stay in the game by nitpicking away at the edges of the empire of Russia to just enough to stay in the game, so to speak, I am leaving myself open to the following: either CP player, uh, it doesn't matter which one. I've done it with both. Can essentially, you can kind of bear hug the territories, or at least get the 3 you need, and then ram one of your armies into the Russians. And it doesn't matter how bad the odds are. The only thing the CP player needs to know is if that initial attack will have a single piece remaining. If there's a single piece remaining, the Russians are out of the game. Why? Because again, if you bear hugged the Russian capital good enough and it captured at least 3, hopefully 5 territories, and you create a contested zone with any of the CP powers, it does not matter if the Russians counterattack in their turn and clear the territory completely. The point is, they can't leave Moscow, which means all 3 to 5 of those territories that you bear hugged with are legitimate, and by the end of the Russian turn, even though you lost an entire army to do it, you've nuked the Russian army. You accept the terms because they're forced to offer them to you. Moscow and whatever other territories weren't picked up by the CP become uninvadable territories. Their income is essentially reduced to 0. Russia loses all its income, and most importantly, it loses all its armies. So as the Russian player, I'm looking to ride the center line of that incident occurring, and you know, exchanging pieces for CP, my pieces for CP pieces is hopefully something like a 1-to-1 ratio, if not better. And always counting what can be done to me. Like I count up his pieces right now. I see this guy has 18 German pieces next to my capital. And so what do I need? I need at least 36 pieces to reliably demolish him, to demolish that CP attack in a single round of combat. If I don't have at least 36, I'm flirting with revolution. So that's, again, you bear hug it, and then the Russian player's responsibility here, I should say, is I should just cut to the chase. The Russian player's responsibility, my responsibility as the Russian player, is to be aware of that and understand that eventually there will be too many pieces adjacent to obliterate any attacking CP power in one turn. And so this is sort of the negotiation. It's almost an over-the-board negotiation between the opponent, between both opponents. It's sort of like, how are we going to, how does Russia die? And the better understanding that you have over about the revolution rule and its true implications, some of which I've just gone over, gives the advantage to that side or that individual. Anyway, I'm going to say more about this in a video. I thought I would trial it here. Hopefully that made some sense to the half dozen of you that are actually watching. Thanks for watching this. All the best from the good captain, and bye-bye.